As well as featuring text from Richard II by William Shakespeare, some of the narration featured in this video is taken from Leon Garfield's book Shakespeare Stories, first published in 1985, which is copyright to the estate of Leon Garfield. In 1398, 4 generations before the rise to power of his infamous namesake, King Richard II has ruled England for over 20 years, having succeeded to the throne at the age of 10, following the death of his grandfather, King Edward III. Richard has almost no memory of life before the throne, and as such believes unwaveringly in his divine right to rule. When King Richard's elderly uncle, John of Gaunt, Duke of Lancaster, dies, the king seizes all the lands and wealth associated with the duchy so that he can pay for wars in Ireland. However, John of Gaunt's son and heir, Henry Bolingbroke, Duke of Hereford, who is currently serving a term of banishment after being implicated in the suspicious death of the Duke of Gloucester, decides to return to England to reclaim his rightful inheritance. When confronted by the king's surviving uncle, the Duke of York, Bolingbroke claims to have returned solely to reclaim his rightful inheritance as Duke of Lancaster. Bolingbroke marched on, strongholds fell, castles opened their gates, and the common people, whom he had always courted, came running from cottage, farm, and town to join him. All England was for Bolingbroke. Then England's king came back. The crossing from Ireland had been rough, but the fury of the elements had done no more than make Richard bright with anger. That Bolingbroke should so much as set his foot upon the kingdom was a crime, and that he should come in arms was treason against God. But he would fall, as all bad men must fall, before the divine splendour of the king. Bolingbroke could never succeed. Though all the world might fight for him, God and his angels were for Richard, and theirs was the power that must conquer all. King Richard knew, as he had always known since he was a little boy, that there was a sacred mystery in kingship before which all men must bow. Then the blows began to fall, and when they fell they were like thunderbolts upon King Richard's defenceless head. 20,000 Welshmen, on whose help he had counted, had dispersed and fled. His beloved friends, Bushy and Green, had been dragged from Bristol Castle and put to death, and the old Duke of York, that uncle who had loved him well, had abandoned him and joined with Bolingbroke. As one by one these cruel calamities were told to him, he faltered and staggered in bewilderment and pain. He could not believe that such things could happen to a king. His friends, he still had friends that loved him, tried to comfort him and rouse him back to glory. For a time they seemed to succeed, and he was Royal Richard again, but all too briefly. In the twinkling of an eye, the Golden King had turned to lead, and he sank, fathoms deep, into a grave of dreams. No matter where, of comfort no man speak. Let's talk of graves, of worms and epitaphs. Make dust our paper, and with rainy eyes write sorrow on the bosom of the earth. Let's choose executors and talk of wills. And yet not so, for what can we bequeath save our deposed bodies to the ground? Our lands, our lives, and all are Bolingbroke's. And nothing can we call our own but death, and that small model of the barren earth which serves as paste to cover to our bones. For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings, how some have been deposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, all murdered, for within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death his court, and there the antic sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little scene, to monarchize, be feared and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh which walls about our life were brass impregnable, and humoured thus comes at the last, and with a little pin bores through his castle wall, and farewell, king! Cover your heads, and mock not flesh and blood with solemn reverence. Throw away respect, tradition, form, and ceremonious duty, for you have but mistook me all this while. I live with bread like you, feel want, taste grief, need friends. Subjected thus, how can you say to me I am a king? The mansion of majesty, in which he'd always dwelt secure and happy, had cracked at last, and no matter where he hid, cold winds kept blowing in. Together with his companions, now pitifully few, he fled to Flint Castle, for the very earth on which he stood seemed to shake and tremble under the advancing tread of Bolingbroke. He does me double wrong, that wounds me with the flatteries of his tongue. Discharge my followers, and let them hence away, from Richard's night to Bolingbroke's fair day. I will be back soon with more from both Shakespeare's history plays and C.S. Lewis. If you're enjoying my content, please do like and subscribe. And also please consider making a small donation to one of the charitable causes nominated on my channel page, where you should be able to find donation links. These will be updated, but at the time of recording I'm currently nominating the BBC's Big Night In, which is splitting funds raised between children in need and comic relief, and is being match funded by the UK government. I'm also nominating NHS Charities Together, and last but by no means least, Cardiac Risk in the Young, which is a very important charity to me and my family. For now, please take care of yourselves, and thank you so much for watching.